for joining us for the virtual information session for the Masters of Education in Curriculum and Instruction. There's a lot of other things you could be doing right now, but you're choosing to spend your time with us to learn more about the program. And for that, we are very appreciative. And this will be a good investment of your time. You will learn a lot more about your experience. This is a big decision for you to make as a prospective graduate student. So it's our job in our departments to help you do your due diligence. And, our plan is to take you behind the scenes so you can preview your experience long before you would ever be starting. Before we go any further, though, we're going to go ahead and kick it off with some introductions. My name is Tom Crash. I am our Director of Graduate Admissions, and I will be your host for tonight. Dr. Starmack.
My name is Dr. Tom Starmack. I am the Department Chair for Counseling and Ed Leadership and Professor of Educational Leadership in the department.
Great, thank you. Dr. Jessica Hosley.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jessica Hosley. I teach in the Masters of Education Curriculum Instruction program and coordinate the program.
And Dr. Nate Hosley.
Hi, my name is Nate Hosley. I'm a professor in the alternative education concentration or track, if you will, for curriculum instruction. And I also teach some ed leadership courses.
Great, thank you. So the event, the presentation itself should take around 30 minutes or so. And then followed by that, we'll have a open question and answer period for anybody who has any specific questions. This event is being recorded, so again, whether you're watching live or watching the recording, thank you for joining us. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A or the chat, and I'll certainly get them to our faculty here for the questions to be responded to. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we can start the presentation here. So the first question is, and you're probably wondering, so why the Masters of Ed in Curriculum and Instruction? Again, and this is probably the most important slide, I would say. As prospective grad students, you're going to be giving up some of your free time, right? You're going to be spending time doing homework after, a long day in the classroom. You're going to be working on research projects. Like what's in it for you? Dr. Hosley, do you have any insight here?
Well, all teachers that would probably be applying to this program are required to get their level 2 cert, which is 24 graduate credits. They will first have their instructional 1 and they want to move on to their instructional 2. So this is a pathway to be able to do that. And then if you take 6 more credits, you'll have your master's degree, which is a pay increase, which everybody enjoys.
So it's out. What I heard out of that was pay increase.
Yeah.
So that's always nice, and it sounds like this is a necessity anyways. Like this is a reality as an educator. You're going to need this regardless. Yep. So Dr. Hosley, you mentioned 24 credits. The program is I think this is around 30 credits, I believe. So basically, you have to do 24 credits no matter what. You might as well do the additional 6 and get the degree itself, get the credential.
That's correct. And one of the really nice things about this program and the other programs at Commonwealth U is they're 100% online. So as a teacher or a leader in your school, you're able to take the courses either synchronous or asynchronous. And these courses are really designed to enhance your skills in becoming a master teacher. And one of the things we do is in our courses, we pride ourselves in, we really take theory and help you put it into practice into the classroom. So it's not just all busy work. You're able to design and create projects that then you're able to use and implement within your classroom. If you're looking at moving more into leadership roles, you can create curriculum projects that you can then, move on if you want to get your curriculum and supervision certification. So we really are excited about the online programs in terms of helping you move from, being starting out as a teacher to becoming really a master teacher and leader within your school and classroom.
So, Dr. Hosley, as we talk about the program being 100% online, and we'll talk more about the courses and the coursework here in a little bit, what do the classes look like? Are they synchronous? Are they asynchronous? Are they in the evening? Are they taught during the day? Can you give some details of what a schedule might look like?
Yeah, so there's a mix of both. So asynchronous is where you're logging on at any time within the day or night. And some of the courses, depending on the tracks that you choose, will vary. And then the synchronous courses would be, and Dr. Starmack or Dr. Hazy can jump in here. Those might be on a Monday night from 5 to 8, or a Tuesday night from 6 to 9. They're usually they are once a week for 3 hours, and I can attest to you. They don't like hold you the whole time for 3 hours. You know, you work, you get to work in groups, and it's really interactive. There's a lot of synergy that goes on, and you get to meet, you know, your students that you're going to be moving through the courses with. So the time really goes by fast, and it's, you know, after school hours. So you're able to come home, grab something to eat, and log on to your classes.
No, that's super
It-
helpful.
I'm just going to interject there. The synchronous classes are Mondays through Thursdays in the evening only. We don't have Saturday, Sunday, or Friday classes for synchronous. And as Dr. Hosley had alluded to, even though we block out a 3-hour chunk of time for the class, typically you're online engaging, doing different work within the course rather than having to physically drive to campus. We're just meeting in typically through Zoom. And that lasts anywhere for about an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours. But we do block the full 3 hours because if you have projects or assignments or group work, you can then meet with your teammates for the third hour and not have to give up another hour of the night or week, so to say. So that way you're kind of dedicating one night to that class to be able to work on projects, et cetera. Because we are cognizant that many of you have lives beyond this. You're full-time teachers, you have families, things of that nature. So not that you're not going to do additional reading and things outside of that one night, but you'll be able to meet and do the projects and things you need to do within that one night typically.
Yeah. So one of my questions is if you, I would imagine probably at least some of the students, you know, considering the program are probably currently full-time teachers. Is it doable to be able to complete this program while working full-time as a teacher?
Absolutely. I can say that, you know, a lot of times, students first starting out are apprehensive, and so they want to just start out with one class, but they have always said to me, oh, okay, I can really do this because it is online, and you know, what we're doing is meaningful, and I can, you know, implement it right into my classroom. And also there's some flexibility with the professors in the courses. We work with you. We know you have families and things outside. We have families, you know, we have kids, and so, you know, we understand what that's like. So it absolutely is doable. And one of the questions that a lot of students will ask me is, you know, how quickly can I go through it, or how does it work? And I always say that if you take 2 classes in the fall, 2 in the spring, and 2 in the summer, you can get through in 2 academic years. Not everybody does that. They may take, you know, 1 course at a time, or your district may only pay for a certain amount within the academic year. But I can attest to the majority of students take 2 classes a semester, and then 2 in the summer, depending on you know, what's going on in their lives or what the district affords.
In your experience, has it been that school districts will sometimes cover some of the costs? Is there like a tuition reimbursement at a lot of schools? Dr. Hosley or Dr. Zimmerman?
Yes, most districts, we would encourage anybody that is a current teacher to talk to their union representatives and or their administration to look at the contract. There's typically, you know, depending on the school district, some do full reimbursement, some do tuition only, some do 9 credits an academic year, some do 12, some have no limits, some's based on there's a pot of money, and once it runs out, so if you get in sooner than everybody else in the district, you can access that money sooner. And the majority of our students do, and we, you know, are utilizing that. And that's one of the flexibilities. We in our program will work with you and kind of pace things out and work with you so that you are being able to maximize that benefit from the district.
Great, thanks. So I know one of the more unique parts of the programs too is that we have the different program tracks. Dr. Haase, would you be able to walk us through some of the examples?
Yes, we have 6 really cutting edge tracks that are just really responding to the needs out there that we know that teachers have in our communities. And the first one is alternative education, which is really a misnomer a little bit in the sense that it's all about cutting edge practices and theories and research related to working with at-risk kids. You learn things in that program that you would not learn in any undergraduate program or most graduate programs for that matter. There are only a few alternative ed or at-risk student programs in the nation, and we happen to be one of them and have a long-term reputation in that area. The second one is a social, emotional, and behavioral wellness endorsement. And if you are interested in things like self-awareness, social awareness, relationship skills, self-management, those kinds of courses, then that's the track for you. It really focuses on those kinds of areas within social emotional learning and behavioral wellness. Then we have the English as second language, e-learning specialist certificate. Those are kind of self-explanatory in terms of what the curriculum are. The instructional game design certification is exactly what it sounds like. It focuses on game design and courses related to that area. And then we have an interest-based track, which is you work with an advisor or the coordinator of the curriculum instruction area to build your own interest-based track. So it has to make sense, of course. The courses have to make some kind of sense to lead to the curriculum instruction degree, but it is driven by your interests. So those 6 tracks are, we think, really cutting edge, and to my knowledge, we're the only ones that have several of those tracks.
Yeah, and one of the benefits here too is, so this area is one of the things that we have directed a lot of resources to, right? So we have this enormous ecosystem to support a lot of these tracks. So to give you an example, the alternative education program came out of Lock Haven, right? So we were able to add that as one of the tracks. The social, emotional, and behavioral wellness program, or the SEBW, is taught out of our Department of Exceptionalities and is paired with the special education program. The e-learning specialist and the instructional game design came out of our instructional design and technology program. So this enormous ecosystem that we have that surrounds the M.Ed. and curriculum instruction creates additional opportunities that, frankly, a lot of other schools probably are not going to offer. So this degree of segmentation and area of specialty is really advantageous. Dr. Starmack, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, just make sure the participants or anybody watching this video understand the social, emotional, behavioral wellness endorsements, an actual endorsement on your teaching license for the state of Pennsylvania. So if you're a certified Pennsylvania teacher, you can add that endorsement on. ESL, the English as a Second Language certification, also is a PDE add-on certification. So if you're interested in that, you can do that and get that certification. One caveat with that, be careful, because if you're not really passionate about it, you want to think twice, because administration in a lot of districts have the power to shift and move you where they want. And if they have a need it for an ESL teacher, you might be teaching that and you really didn't want to teach that. Even though the e-learning and game design says certificate, those are not related to your teaching license. Those are more like a Microsoft Office certificate. So it's a certificate from our institution, Commonwealth University, saying you've demonstrated competencies in these 2 areas especially. So, and I do believe this is a unique, because many master's programs across the state and country really in curriculum instruction have only that one focus, curriculum instruction, where we have developed this potpourri of choices based on what students' needs and interests might be.
Yeah, no, we certainly have something for everyone, kind of based on the direction that they would like to go into. No, for sure. And Dr. Haase, I know your area of specialty is in alternative education. Can you talk a little bit about what the outlook looks like in alternative ed, and how we're helping to meet the demand there?
Sure. Well, the state of Pennsylvania alone has 700 programs in alternative education statewide. So if you take a look at, the mission of the program, which has to do really with serving those at-risk kids and helping teachers become comfortable in that area of working with behaviors, of creating safe classroom environments, of understanding what makes them tick in terms of their motivation for learning and those kinds of topics. It's really a situation where the need is not only in those 700 alternative ed programs, but the charter schools have the need. Many of our urban schools are crying out for help in terms of, how can you support our teachers better understand the practices that work in terms of these at-risk kids. And of course, it's also really important just because of the lost instructional time due to at-risk behaviors related things that go on in the classroom. And so, it's an important area, and it's an important area not just in Pennsylvania, but nationally. And we've been working with the National Alternative Education Association to partner in terms of using their exemplary practices in our program. And I always like to add that we've been fully accredited through the national organizations, through NCATE and so on.
No, great. Thank
I
you.
want to add 2 points of clarification for those viewers out there. When Dr. Hosley talks about 700 programs, he's talking about PK-12 schools,
yes,
and or programs that are feeding and helping our partnering or our school districts across the Commonwealth. And then that track doesn't prepare you to teach in those schools, although it could. The program is designed to help you better understand at-risk kids. And let's face it, most all children coming into school now are at risk of something. So to gain a deeper knowledge and understanding of at-risk students, that you can then be utilizing those in your classroom and with your colleagues in your school buildings, could help to alleviate possibly the need of kids being placed in an alternative setting. Hence, you're reducing the number and the expenditures of what it costs a public school to be able to educate the kids. So just so you have a little bit of clarity about the focus of that program, it is really about the at-risk children and how do you gain the knowledge and skills to work and have tools in your toolbox to better, more effectively help those kids and their families.
that includes all the topics that I talked about before, but also things like we throw around diagnostic categories in the classroom, and I know that from my talking with teachers that in their undergraduate preparation, they don't really get any in-depth explanation about what those at-risk diagnostic categories are. What does it mean when it's oppositional defiant, disorder? What exactly is that all about? Or any of them, if you're teachers, that those diagnostic labels are thrown around a lot. We really go through those and talk about what those actually mean in terms of that student and their potentials and how to work with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. And that's where we get into, so we talked a little bit about the tracks and how you can specialize. And in at a more granular look is the courses. This is going to be probably one of the more important, pieces of information that we cover is literally what classes are you taking? Dr. Hosley, would you walk us through some of the courses that students would be engaging in?
Okay, so whatever track you choose, you will still be required to take the core courses, the 12 required core courses, and it's data-driven decisions, school law, ethics and finance, curriculum theory and design, educational research and writing. And all of those courses, you can are hands-on, and one of the courses I teach is curriculum theory and design. You kind of take the theory of curriculum and how you can implement different types of curriculum, different types of instruction in the classroom. I know Dr. Starmack and Dr. Hosley teach the other courses, so I'll let them speak to those. But I do want to say, oftentimes students will see school law, ethics, and finance, and they're always most nervous about that one. But I just met with my advisees, and the students said to me, Dr. Hosley, I was so nervous about taking this class, but I took this class. I absolutely loved it. And when students say to me, you can't do that, or that's not right, she was able to say, I said, well, according to this. And so you learn a lot in terms of that class. And that's the class that Dr. Starmack teaches. But she said that was so helpful for her in understanding exactly the different, laws and ethics. And when she saw the title of the course, she was nervous, but she said she learned and is able to apply so much of it. But I know Dr. Starmack and Dr. Hosley teach the other ones, and I'll let them speak to those a little bit.
And I'm sorry, just real quickly, Dr. Starmack, would you be able to talk a little bit more about school law, ethics, and finance? You've piqued my interest, Dr. Hosley. So, other than law, ethics, and finance, or more specifically, what are some of the units or some of the things that are taught in that class?
Well, in school law, ethics, and finance, so we cover exactly what it says. So we cover all the laws that teachers, administrators, any school personnel should be familiar with to protect themselves and make sure they're not making decisions that are going to harm themselves or kids and that are illegal. So we cover the First Amendment, we cover the Fourth Amendment, we cover the 14th Amendment, the 10th Amendment. So we are looking at constitutional. We also look at compulsory school age, what goes into determining compulsory school age, what laws govern what you can and can't do as far as a teacher, what can districts do to teachers, what can't they do to teachers? And I don't want to just say teachers, educators, because school nurses, counselors, administrators all fall into that. And then we go into ethics, and we talk a lot about ethics and ethical choices and look at what the state of Pennsylvania and the teaching profession as a whole says what we should be doing ethically. And then we also work through finance, school finance, and what goes into being able to finance the education of youth and how much of the money is driven towards people. And it's all of us that cost so much. So what generates the budget, et cetera. So I'm a proponent that everybody coming through a teacher prep program should have this, but very few, if any, teacher prep programs have school law, ethics, and finance. Mm-hmm. And it is I love teaching that class. We have a lot of fun in that class. It is rigorous, but I just try to tell the students at the beginning, trust me, we'll get through it together. And by the end, everybody is pretty satisfied with the volume of learning that they've done, and kind of sets them in a path that they understand why certain decisions are being made and why they can and can't do certain things as educators.
Yeah, and all those subjects you talked about too, Dr. Starmack, are all extremely timely. Like those are all things that you read about in the newspaper. Those are things you read about in the news. Those, like you hear about those. Like, so I'm not an educator, but even I'm aware of that, so it seems like that's kind of like looking at education from a 10,000-foot view, right? Kind of like zooming out and then kind of, going through what the educational ecosystem within the school districts. That's honestly, that's fascinating. That's really cool. Dr. Hosley, did you have anything to add about some of the subjects that you're teaching?
Well, just briefly, one of the things Dr. Starmack's really good at is giving you titles for courses that are actually what's in the course. I mean, so as he said, for school law, ethics, and finance, the same is true with data-driven decisions and educational research and writing. They're exactly what they say they are. In data-driven decisions, you take a look at how data is used in school, why it's used the way it is, some of the ethics in terms of using data. And we really take a look at the school districts out there, a close look at some of the school districts, and compare how they use data and what seems to be important to one district versus another. And we look at all of the considerations about how to use data in the school. And then educational research and writing is about the different methods of research that you'll find in education. And you get your training for your IRB training. So you're prepared and the ethics of doing research, and you have a certification that comes out of that course that shows that you've passed the national course in that area. And then we actually do a writing process through the course where we write each chapter together of your research topic, which you've chosen at the beginning. And I could go on, but basically it is what it says it is. And they are rigorous courses, but you know, we're all about, I know I can speak for all of us in this, we're all, even though some of them are asynchronous and some of them are just once a week, we're all about high touch and trying to be in touch with our students in terms of, like, one of the ways I do it is I have really extended phone hours that students can call me if they have questions about the course content. We all have office hours. We all reach out in different ways, email, with, you know, whatever it may be. But I think in online coursework, when you evaluate what school you want to go to, one of the things you should look at is, you know, is there a high degree of touch? Is there an interaction and an engagement that's meaningful in this program? And you know, of course, I teach in it, so I'm going to say this, but truly, it is an engaging program, and the faculty pride themselves in keeping in touch with their students.
Yeah, you don't want to feel like you're on an island, right? You want to feel isolated in this. So I think that's a tremendous point, Dr. Stormack.
Yeah, just for the viewers out there, the educational research and writing is one of the core courses, and the reason why is because you're getting a master's degree. So regardless of what master's program you choose in any university across the United States of America, you're going to do some type of research course. And this is the one that we do. We don't go deep into statistics or statistical analysis and things of that nature. And there's not a thesis requirement in our program. It's an optional. You could do a thesis if you wanted, but it's not a requirement. By completing this one course, educational research and writing, and doing your writing literature review of your topic of your choice, will fulfill the requirement for the master's degree, you know, within the program.
If I can add just one more thing about these courses, on the 4 that you see there, plus the track courses, we really focus on relevance. We really like the idea of providing you with the theory, the practice, all of the underlying experience that we have. We provide you with everything we can in a way that we hope is relevant to what you're doing every day in a classroom. So you can take, if you're in an intro to alternative ed theory course, for example, the theories that are in that course, the practices that are in that course, those are things that you can almost immediately take back to the classroom and begin to implement with your students. And that's another area that I think we're really, we set ourselves apart in, focusing on relevance and not just giving you just some theory that, you know, was from 1940s and it's great back then, but doesn't apply now. You know, of course, if there's a theory that does apply now, we'll make that point. But it's all about relevance for us.
So one final question before we move on. So everyone who's watching has a bachelor's degree or is completing one, you know, maybe in their senior year. What are some of the differences in undergraduate coursework versus the graduate coursework in curriculum instruction? Is it more writing, more reading, more research? Is there greater depth? Like, what I would imagine based on what you're saying is probably part of that is it's probably less theory and it's more practice based, or it's connecting a theory to practice. Anything that you could discern?
So my 2 cents would be that it is definitely going to be, I don't know, I wouldn't necessarily say there's more reading, but there's definitely reading. There's going to be some research on their end that's expected depending on the courses. There's going to be some writing, and depending on the course, data-driven decisions in educational research and writing have a lot more writing than any other courses just because of the design of the class. There's not as many traditional type tests, I don't say, in grad school. Grad school is more about discussions. It's more about writing. It's more about projects. It's more about implementation, taking what we're teaching you and then put it back into your own classroom in a project that makes sense for you or in your own school building. And that is a big difference because you're practicing practitioners, where In undergrad as a bachelor, you didn't have that. So it was a lot of theory, a lot of theory, a lot of theory until you got to student teaching, and then you got to apply it. Well, now that you're in the classroom, the majority of all our students are in the classroom. We do have some that are still full-time grad students. However, we do our best to connect them to classrooms, or they're subbing in the schools, and they still can use what they're learning and apply it into their current classrooms. And in those few situations where they are full-time grad students, then and not necessarily in a full-time job, they're still developing projects with their peers that then they can take and use in their classroom when they get there that one day. So that would be my 2 cents around that.
No, that's very helpful. So as you move on beyond the coursework, what are some of the high impact practices? So basically meaning, what are some of the things that students are going to engage in that is going to give them very valuable experience? Maybe it's something that they can add to a resume. It might be a capstone experience. It might be like I'm applying a majority of the coursework, through a project. And honestly, Dr. Starmack, you touched on a subject too, where again, at least some of the students in the program are going to be practicing teachers right now. They're going to be educators. So what are some of the things that they might be able to implement into their daily routines as teachers? Dr. Haase, did you have anything to add?
So there, like Dr. Hasley and Dr. Starmack said, there's a lot of projects that you'll do, but one of the things, and this is, you will have the opportunity to create projects that you can then later use. An example is it's a curriculum project where they worked on looking at the curriculum and seeing where there were places where they looked at the standards and maybe they could include more diversity or culture into the classroom, and how they would create a project and actually implement that project in the classroom using the state standards and aligning them, and then kind of putting together a unit that they could readily teach. And one of the teachers actually put this together and presented it to their first grade teachers. It was for first grade teachers, and they're implementing it within their curriculum to try to tie the PA standards to the Common Core and what they're doing within their district. And it was something we worked together on, and she was able to do. So what we try to do is help you to look at what your district's doing and what are some current trends and practices within that district or in your school. And then we've even worked to adapt assignments so that you can create assignments that then you can use in your class or in your school and present, and they're current and relevant.
And I'm just going to jump in and piggyback, because I'm thinking about the 2 classes we have this semester for alternative ed, where we just finished teaching. So one is cognition, motivation, and social skills. Everything you learn in that class, you can implement immediately in your classroom. And it's going to enhance your own knowledge and skills so that you can modify current practices so that you can be more effective in working with those children. And I think a lot of the track classes are that way, depending on the track. Definitely in the alt ed, it's that way. The other class, drawing a blank, was it the theories and practice of alternative ed, I think was the other class. And once again, everything you're learning in there, we don't just talk theory, and then you take a multiple choice test on it. We're talking about the theory, and then how do you take that theory and put it into practice? And then that's something you could start to implement and decide, well, I can modify my classroom management plan a little bit and maybe do this because it could be more effective, not just for at-risk kids, but all of my kids. So I think it's that relevance piece, as Dr. Haase said earlier, is critical. And we believe heavily in theory to practice, and immediately, not 2 years from now or 5 years from now. You're doing it simultaneously as you're going through the program.
Yeah, and just to add one quick note on that, when it gets to your research and your research writing, you as the student choose the topic, and almost everyone chooses a topic that's relevant to their classroom. So this semester we had things like what's the best instructional method to teach basic math facts for elementary students. That was one of them. And a science teacher was in there, and he really has a good team in his school districts of science teachers, but they're all looking at that same kind of issue related to science. What are the best instructional trends that will help us get through to all students, not just some students, but get through to all students with our various science subjects? What are the best methods of instruction? And so he did his research on that, and he really heavily went into the literature out there that others have done, the studies that others have done, and it gave him a sense of direction that he can take back to his school team.
Yeah, probably the approach there, it probably makes it more doable for people who are working, as current teachers, is because you're not like, okay, I have my work life and then I have my school life, and like those two things are separate. In this case, your work life and your school life are kind of in the same lane, right? It's kind of in the middle of the Venn diagram, because the stuff you're doing in your school life or your grad school life really are things that you're actively applying in your work life, so it makes it easier and probably, more, probably more enjoyable, as opposed to like just like a series of side projects. And that gets us into the job outlook. So, I have heard that there is a national teacher shortage. I mean, is that something that's pretty accurate, not only across Pennsylvania, but across the country?
Yes. The state of Pennsylvania historically, I'm going to say, is right before COVID, 2016-17, certified over 22,000 educators a year. Last year, 3,500. Year before, 4,500. So the number of educators being certified in our own state has dropped drastically. In addition to that, you have a large number of people that are retiring and left the profession because of COVID, and there's just simply they're getting to the point that they're time to move on with their life to the next chapter, and they're deciding to retire. So there are shortages. We had an event with our undergrad student teachers in October, and we heard from many of the panelists who are superintendents and principals and so forth that this is a prime time to come into teaching, because you can almost pick where you work. Where in the past there were hundreds of applicants for jobs, now there's not. So you have an opportunity. And the benefit of coming in, not only because you have to get an instructional 2 license in your 24 post-bac credits, but you come in, getting the master's degree versus doing a hodgepodge of credits through IUs or other things. You have a concentrated area of focus, a degree that gives you more value to a district in a sense of your knowledge and skills, and become a more attractive candidate for positions that would be open.
That's a great point. Dr. Hosey, did you have anything to add?
They covered a lot of it. So
I would just add that the leadership, with all those retirements, there's a need for leadership. And one of the things that any of these tracks do is give you an area of expertise that you can lead in your school. Of course, we have our Ed Leadership Program. If you want to be a principal, talk to Dr. Starmack about that one. It's an excellent program. But if you're not really looking at that kind of thing, you're looking at, I want to be great at what I do best, which is teach. I love to teach. Then this is a good program, because our schools need leaders right now. And if you pick one of these focus areas and go for it, you will pretty quickly become a leader in your school. I'm hearing that more and more from teachers in this program, that they've after 2 years of teaching, they get an opportunity for a leadership position within the school, and they feel unqualified, so they want to get into this program to make themselves more ready for the position they've already received. So that's been a big trend, I think.
And I think, Dr. Hosley, you're talking more teacher leadership, so like department chair and or to lead at-risk movements, or possibly a school-wide positive behavior support program that's going on in the school. So there's a lot of teacher leadership opportunities, and this program and the master's degree better set you up for the knowledge and skills to be effective at that.
That's right.
Yeah, and it seems like the principal certification part, again, it's more for like if you want to be an administrative leader, right? If you're lead a school district, lead a an individual school, this is more, and this is something honestly that I even learned more about. It's like, oh no, but there are other leadership positions within a school outside of being the principal. And this is the program that would prepare you as really being a master teacher. So that, yeah, that's really interesting. And that is super, certainly good to know. And then we get into the application and the admission process. Dr. Housley, could you take us through what you're looking for in a qualified applicant?
So you'll fill out the online application, the application fee. And one of the things, we say is since you've heard this and you've talked to, all of us, make sure that you've talked to a Commonwealth University rep, because they waive that application fee. So I always say, make sure you check that. Official college transcripts, 3 letters of recommendation, and a resume. Your statement of goals. Sometimes they say, what do you mean by your statement of goals? It's just what you put together as what are your goals for completion of the program? Where do you see yourself, and what you want to do in terms of a master's degree? So sometimes I think they think it's like an essay. It's not exactly that. It's just, you kind of formalizing why you feel you'll be a good candidate in a graduate program, and then your PA instructional certificate. One of the things I would say with this is, when you put your letters, the individuals' names of the recommendations, reach out to them and let them know that they'll be getting an email from Commonwealth U, because sometimes it can go to their junk email, or they'll miss it. So if you do that, let them know that you put them down as a recommendation, and they'll get a link where they can upload the letter of recommendation. But I always say, let them know. And then I would say, kind of follow up with them just as a reminder, because just to make sure that they're aware that they're getting that.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, go ahead, Dr. Starmer.
Yeah, it says current PA instructional certificate. I just want to clarify. I mean, we will accept out of state. So if anybody in here or any viewers are out of state, this program is open nationally. We are looking that you would have an instructional certificate. In very rare cases, we do admit a few students that have not had that, but there is, that would be in an individual case by case situation. So I just want to know, and there was a question in the chat, I'll just address it right now. The question was, do we have to have a certain number of years experience to be entered into this program? And the answer is no. We have a lot of our students that they'll finish their undergrad program, student teach, they're out there teaching, they get their first teaching job, or maybe they haven't gotten their first teaching job and they're subbing, and then they come into our program. And because you're entering a degree program, you would be potentially eligible for federal financial aid, which is a minimum requirement of 6 credits per semester. And I'm not a financial aid officer, but we would put you in touch with them to be able to have those discussions as well.
That's absolutely correct. You got it. So, Dr. Housley, when you're looking for the statement of goals, I know one of the questions we get sometimes is, well, how long should it be? Is it a page? Is it 10 pages? Are there any kind of recommendations that you would provide on the subject matter, other than, I guess you could provide that, basically, like, why would you be a good candidate? Like, what would make you qualified for this? Any other specifications?
No, not really, because everybody has their own individual goals of where they want to be and why they're getting their master's degree. So there are not strict requirements on that. I would hope it's not 10 pages ever. No, I mean, I think at first, though, there's always, they wonder, is this an essay, and I say, just really look at like what your professional goals are and what you want to do to get, as you move on to get your master's degree. So just, that would be about it.
My 2 cents there would be a page. It should be plenty.
Yeah.
And why do you want to enter the program you're choosing? Why do you believe you'll be successful at grad school? And what do you anticipate using with the new knowledge and skills that you get upon program completion? And if you think about it in those 3, you could do 3 short paragraphs, and that would be a great statement of goals.
You can save 10 pages for a paper.
That kind of reminds me, going back, we had the job outlook slide a little bit ago, and kind of combined with this, I just want to mention that for a lot of our teachers, they want to become better practitioners in their school and in their teaching. But for some of our candidates, and you may be one of them, the idea that their goal is really to get a PhD eventually. And we have a lot of students who use the master's program as a springboard to their PhD. They have an interest area, they want to pursue that further. They may pursue it through their content area, they may pursue it through a PhD in curriculum instruction or some other way, but I don't want to leave out that it's not always about jobs. There are certainly a number of our students who like to go into PhD programs right after they've finished our program.
Yeah, actually, that's a great point. Yeah, that's an area that I forgot to cover. So no, thank you, Dr. Hosley. That's a great point. In fact, is that how you all found yourself into the world of academia in terms of being a college professor?
Well, I was a former school, I was a teacher, got my master's in curriculum instruction from a different university in the state of Pennsylvania. I was not from this region at that point in time. And then I went into administration and decided to get my doctorate to validate myself as an administrator, but then also to open doors for potentially one day being in higher ed. And I came into higher ed much sooner. I've been here for 19 years and it's been a fantastic experience. And I think I speak for myself as well as my colleagues. We love working with students and we love working and seeing their successes and getting notes back saying thank you, for the relevance of what you provided us during your program.
Great, thank you. So, and that gets us to the final slide, which is the contact information for Dr. Hosley, the program coordinator. And again, we work for you. So as prospective students, again, if you're watching live, you're watching the recording, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We're happy to help in any way that we can. But that finishes the presentation part of the event tonight. Thank you, everybody who joined us for the presentation. We certainly look forward to hearing from everybody in the future and hope you have a great night.